not have to do things over and over again. So if we go to create, I come down the bottom, there's mirror here, and then there's pattern. And so there's rectangular, circular, which are the kind of the more common ones. There's also pattern on a path, so you can follow a weird shape or something. And then this geometric pattern, which I actually used on this SD card holder reader, except it didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. Because even though I had told it the exact size of this square, when I patterned it, it wanted to scale it up and down because it wants to make a more of an aesthetic or kind of something like that. And it's not tied to a specific size thing. So it didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. But if you're doing like a grill or something like that, then it's a good option to use. So let me create something real quick. So if you're drawing things that are symmetric, so what does symmetric mean? Same on both sides, right? So anything that's, this is symmetric. This is symmetric, right? Something's symmetric in more directions than others. But in order to do something, if you have a part that's got some symmetry to it, the best thing to do is to create it where it's got the planes going down the middle already. So if the plane's already in the middle, that means when you mirror, so when you were little, you did the thing where you do like half of a drawing and you put a mirror against it, and then by changing the angle of the mirror, you can kind of change what you saw in it. You can kind of get it to look like both sides of it were done. That's what we're doing with it. We're drawing half of it and flipping it over. But in this case, we're not necessarily doing it in the sketch. We're doing it after we do something with it. So we're going to draw it, extrude it, and mirror that whole feature over to the other side. Or we can draw half the part and mirror that half the part to the other side. So I'll show you both of those pieces. So let's say I'm going to start here. So if I want to draw a feature on this side and mirror it to the other side, I should probably start with like a center rectangle, right? Get started half planes in the middle, so that way I can mirror across those planes. And I can tell this to be however big I want it to be. Extrude it. New component. Cool. So now if I go in and I do something on this side, so let's say I want to cut off that corner. I cut that corner out, but I want that same cut to be on this side. I'm just going to go to create, mirror. In this case, I'm going to tell it, what is that cut? Is that a body, a face, a feature, or a component?
Feature.
It's a feature, right? So I'm going to pick that. But I can mirror any of these things. This face one sounds appealing. It's like, oh, I'm just going to mirror this face. It's the hardest one to use. I'd recommend to use features. So features, the bodies are components. So bodies, if you draw the first half and want to flip it over, bodies is a good option for that. Features, if you've already drawn the whole part, you just want to mirror some stuff across. And components is if you got a finished part and you want a right-hand version and a left-hand version. So a complete opposite version of it. Like I want one of these, but instead of these things being on the left side here, I want them on this side. I want the whole thing flipped. So I want two different versions of it. So I can mirror the component when it's done to get that. So on furniture and a lot of stuff, it's on because you've got the one side and then you got the other side, and stuff has to be opposites on it. So that's where we can use that. So you can have a left and a right. But I'm going to go features. The object I'm going to mirror, I could go and I can pick it here on the model. That's not always the easiest way though, because you might pick the wrong feature or something. I always pick it off the timeline, because then I know exactly what I'm picking. Especially if I need to pick multiple things, I can go down the timeline, pick them all, and it's really easy. Okay. Then I go to mirror plane, pick the plane in the middle, and it flips it across, and I can say OK. Easy, right? So let's say I want to add some more stuff to this mirror, so I'm just going to go back in time. So remember the timeline here, I can go back in time before I did that. And and I can add some other stuff. So let's say I'm going to add some fillets. Then I go after that. Uh-oh. What happened?
You have to select the other feature.
I have to do that feature. So now, objects, I'm just going to pick, hold control, pick the fillets too, and say OK. Uh-oh. Hey, how are you doing?
Hips a little lacking up.
All right. So you can see that one corner didn't come. And this is one of the things that happens with mirror a lot, is that if you're mirroring a feature and that feature isn't fully made by the other stuff that you're mirroring, sometimes the fillets work, like up here it worked, but down here it didn't. If we go in and change this to be identical, that still didn't work. Optimized. Sometimes changing that, oh, there you go. Now it works. So sometimes you have to pick kind of how it's doing the math to mirror that over. Because sometimes optimized will bring stuff over, but sometimes identical or just works better. So if you mirror and it doesn't come across the way you want it to, try one of the other three options, or the other two options. Because sometimes that'll work. And kind of one thing that I'll do also, especially in other programs like SolidWorks that doesn't have those options, is I'll mirror the cut and maybe this fillet, but then I'll do these two fillets, or those 4 fillets later. Because I know that those, because they're not part of the thing that's being mirrored, it's not fully contained, it's probably not going to work. So I just won't do that until after the mirror. Does that make sense? So that's just one thing to watch out for when you're doing that. Let's see. What else? So that's mirror. I can also mirror, like I said, half the part. So let's say maybe I've done this, and I want to mirror that. Ah. And I've done some work on this half of it. I've done a chamfer here. Fill it there. Whatever. So I've got this thing and I've got some bunch of stuff on it. And this is my whole half of it that I've done. I can come in here and tell it mirror. I'm going to tell it body. So the object is going to be that whole body. And the mirror plane, pick there. And then I can tell it either to make a new one, so I have a left and right body of this, or I can tell it, better yet, to join it. Now I say join, and now it's all together. I've got the whole thing. And now, of course, I could say, oh, now I want to fill out this here. I need to add anything centered on the part, whatever. So those are the kind of the two options for mirror. Pretty easy, right? You can do things in mirror like if you've got, like, you need to be 2 different directions. Going on here, and I want the same piece going this way. I can go in, I can create, if I want it to be like with this chamfer facing up, I can do a circular pattern to it. But if I want the chamfer facing in, so if I want,
Well, you have to create a different plane for it to mirror off of.
yeah, so then I can create a plane at 45. So I'm just gonna do a midpoint plane, right? Pick that plane and that plane, and now I get a plane going across the middle. And now I can go in and mirror that piece across that plane. Now I get that. Okay? So that's an easy thing to do also. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's kind of the other good part of mirrors. If I need to go 45s, and even if it's like I need a holes spaced here, but all the same holes on this side, I can do the same thing. Do the holes, do mirror, and now they're equal spaced in that corner. So, any questions on that? All right. Nope, that one. So, like I've been promising, we're going to do this one finally. And so, I did call out clearance holes. So, I don't care if you use the normal clearance or I think I set these all up for the normal clearance. That's usually the one you want to use, unless it says otherwise. So just do the normal clearance. Look and see where the dimensions are. So over here, should I do this cut first or this cut first? The top cut or the bottom cut?
Bottom. So the bottom is the one that's mentioned.
Oh, no, yes, the bottom.
You have to do the bottom one first, because you have to do the bottom to find this line, and the top one comes from that line, right? So don't do the math, just do this one first, and then that way you can just put in that half-inch dimension. Make sense? So that's part of the intent of the drawing. And I haven't dimensioned it like from here because I want this dimension. I want this 1 inch gap in the middle. I want the half-inch down here. I want the 1 inch from outside. So use the dimensions I give you. Don't say, oh, it's 4.5 minus this, and do the math for how wide this piece is. Don't do that, because if I say, okay, now change the part where the overall is 6, and the space right here is 1.5, I want you to be able to adjust those things and have it move the correct way. Does that make sense? These holes right here, see the center line extends out past the part. So in this direction, the center line stays inside the part. So that's saying that it's just where it is. But this way, the extension line goes all the way up past the part. That's showing that those features are centered on the part. So remember, center line, I told you center lines can establish relationships. So same thing here, these two holes are centered with each other, they're lined up. All these two horizontal holes and these ones here are all lined up. Okay? So those are all lined up through the middle of the part. Okay, so that means if we make the part 3 inches wide, they should each be 1.5 inches from the edge, right? Any questions on this one and anything that's on the drawing? On this one, would you think, would it be easier to draw the whole thing and do all the cuts, or draw half and mirror the half? What do you guys think?
I'm thinking of drawing half and mirroring it, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to see how the features play.
So you could, if you did the center lines, then you could actually do the 1 inch, right? You can also mix it up. You don't have to do all of one or all the other one. You could do part of it, like this half, and then mirror it, and then put in the notch and put in the hole and put in this notch, put in this notch down here and that one up there. You can do that too. So you can kind of mix it up however you want. And so that's what we're doing. If you're gonna do the whole thing, or do half of it and then flip it, I would save this cut until later. Because if you do this cut here before you mirror it, and then you're gonna cut out this middle section, you're gonna have to project that top edge of right here. But if you mirror it while it's rectangular, then you've already got an edge there that you can just grab onto on the face. And you can still sketch this on one side and extrude it through both halves. So that's what I would recommend. So any other questions? Yes, no? All right. Why did I call this space? Oh, space bar. So here's a part. We're gonna have a few different parts in this unit where I don't have dimensions. I just have pictures of them. And so this is something that kind of happens a little. We've kind of seen that we have an idea of what we need to make, or like we start a job and they're like, all right, make this, and you don't quite have access to the part yet, but you can start drawing the model, and then we can always adjust the numbers later, right? So in order to kind of help make adjusting the numbers easier, it'd be nice if we kind of just set up some of the parameters, so like we did on Monday. So if we were looking at this part here, then, and we know that, okay, this thing might change, what are some parameters we might want to set up?
I know all the holes seem like they're on the whole same line.
Yeah,
So
so
maybe
all the holes look like they're center lines, so that's an easy constraint we can set up when we make it. But what parameters do we want?
Height of the part, length of the part, and then distance between each pair of holes. You might say the inner hole distance, outer hole distance, and
Yeah.
then the hole distance.
And the thickness of it.
So yeah, so length of it, height, depth,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
and
So and then is it square or not? So if we know it's square, then that's easy. But if we're not sure, maybe we want both the height and the depth, right? But yeah, and then maybe set up the distance between the holes here and the distance from the hole to the edge. This one is probably centered on the part, right? So we can just use that for the constraint. Yeah.
I was actually thinking inner hole to inner hole, outer hole to outer hole, because they're going to be mirrored. Like.
Oh, you mean from this distance here?
Yeah.
So that might be. So it might be from this inner distance, but I'm guessing it's probably these two holes are related,
Maybe.
and so
I could see.
yeah. So it could be the outer to outer, inner to inner, or this one and outer, or this one and inner, whatever you want to do. So since we don't know, we're kind of just guessing, right? But yeah, some kind of thing for the whole spacing this way. And on this one, what do you think? Draw half and mirror it, or draw the whole thing
Draw the whole thing.
and mirror features? I'll probably draw half and mirror features, or mirror the whole body, and then just put this one hole in at the end. That's probably what I'd probably draw, like from here that way. So I'd draw it out, put in the holes, put in the chamfer, mirror it, put in this hole from the bottom. That's probably the steps I would take. But try it different ways. See what works. And while you're doing it, just when you're making up your parameters, you've got to put some numbers in it, right? You don't know what numbers are, just kind of like this. These are on diamond tread, so it's I don't know, those are usually like an inch, right? Or 3/4 of an inch? Don't you think?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Now I'm gonna measure them the next time I see them.
Yeah. I don't know if they're
Looks like an 8x1 or 10x1.
so I'm not sure what size those are, and that looks like a rubber mat. So but yeah, they're like, I'd say those are like 3/4 of an inch, I'm guessing. So if this distance here is between 3/4 and 1 inch, guesstimate what size it is. And then just put numbers in. Don't be stuck on, is it close enough? No, just put something in. Because once it's done, and you're like, oh, that is not it at all, you can start adjusting. You can be like, it needs to be shorter, it needs to be longer, it needs to be bigger, whatever. So make those adjustments. And you can even kind of rotate your views to match these and be like, yeah, it looks kind of the same. All right? And I'm not going to give you the correct answer, the correct numbers for this, because I want to see what you guys come up with. Okay? So any questions on that? That's the two things for mirror. Okay? No questions? All right. Then we are going to stop here. I'm going to let you